Hello, hello, this creature. Do you like money? Do you like insomnia? Do you like being chased by your sleep paralysis demon after he's gotten tired of waiting for you to go to sleep because you've been grinding for that new sword upgrade for 5 nights straight? If you've answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, then you have some problems and may need to seek medical or spiritual help. Moonlighter. Moonlighter is a game where no one believes in you and your caretaker tells you to give up on your dreams directly after the tutorial. 5 portals popped up out of nowhere near the small town of Rhinokia. Naturally, people found that these things were filled to the brim with treasure, so as people do, they bum rushed the things in order to get that fat gamer bread. Quickly, 2 groups emerged. The first being the heroes, brave, strong, and adventurous, and they sought to find an end to the dungeons and to slay the guardians. The other was the merchant. Greedy and cowardly opportunists who sought only to gather what they could from the dungeons and dip out in order to sell what they could find for profit. This created a boom town as hundreds of people lined up to take on the dungeons. However, there was a catch. No 2 people could enter the same dungeon, and no one knew what they were in for once they got inside. Also, you can't leave, except for a few merchants and heroes who found special pendants that allowed them to escape unharmed, and for all the heroes to die horribly. That is unless some of the heroes killed the dungeon guardians, but none of them ever did. Naturally, people hated the merchants since they had been kicked out of most of the dungeons and only entered new dungeons in order to find goods and resources to sell, rather than actually do any honorable goals like clear the fucking things. The main draw for the heroes, however, was to find a way to open up the 5th dungeon, which was locked and had no way of entering without the 4 keys. Over the years, the dungeons had been closed off due to the vast amounts of people who yeeted their asses into the things knowing damn well that they were most likely going to die. All except for the Golem dungeon, which the merchants have lobbied to keep open so that they could use it to gather resources to sell for profit. You play as Will, one of the few remaining merchants and the owner and proprietor of the Moonlighter. After what I can only assume was years of farming the same dungeon over and over and over again like a Destiny player grinding for the legendary cum gun, he decided to say fuck it and actually clear the dungeon. Will, however, is not that smart and decides to charge into the dungeon with a mop. He instead gets his ass thrown out of the dungeon and is found by Xenon, who immediately tells you to give up on your dreams and just farm the first floor of the Golem dungeon for loot and sell it. Thus, the game begins. It's actually really fucking good. The game is a mix of a Tycoon type simulator, or a shop running simulator, and a dungeon crawler. I think I've seen it before, but I haven't seen it recently, so this really fits. You start off in the Golem dungeon, where you quickly learn the basics of the game, dodge attacks, and then hit the enemies whenever there's an opening. Simple. However, like any good merchant, you're going to need to manage your inventory, both in the shop and in the dungeons. Throughout the game, you'll come across many different chests, ranging from wood, silver, gold to lean, with loot corresponding with each one of the chests' rarity, wood naturally being the lowest and lean naturally being the highest. But each one of these chests has items that have effects on them. These can either be good or bad, like being forced to take up a specific slot of your inventory, destroying an entire stack of another item upon returning home, or just being completely unknown. But in the higher up chests, there are good effects, like removing curses, sending items home so that they no longer take up a slot in your inventory, swapping, which is effectively allowing you to trade a stack of worthless loot for stacks of extremely valuable loot. In Moonlighter, you will run out of backpack space constantly and there are no upgrades. You will have the same amount of inventory space for the entire game, so you're going to have to get really good at inventory management. But fear not, because there is the Merchant's Mirror. This allows you to sell items directly from your inventory in exchange for a fraction of their cost in gold. And you're going to need that gold, because there's only 3 ways out of the dungeon. Die, kill a boss, or pay the escape fee. That's right, in a game about being a merchant, you're going to have to pay for stuff. You remember that amulet that I mentioned earlier? Well, that thing canonically eats money in order to teleport you out of the dungeon. If you die, you drop all of your stuff except for what's on your body. That is less than optimal. However, you do not lose any money and are able to quickly teleport back into the dungeons after you die, so it's really just kind of a small annoyance. However, this can be mitigated. Because you're a merchant, you got an eye for the odd and the possibly lucrative. As is such, you'll see little sparkles and pits in some of the rooms on each of the floors. These are secret rooms, and if you dive into them, they can have a plethora of different things. Most notably, on the first floor, there's usually a special chest that will teleport anything you put into it back to your shop, even if there isn't space for it. It'll just dump it on the ground. This essentially allows you to clear the entire first floor, including the boss, take all the loot, dump it in the chest, and then just go to the second floor. Oh yeah, and each floor has a boss. They aren't particularly difficult, and neither are the Guardians. After the Golem King, I think I was able to kill most of them on my first try. And I should briefly mention that I'm not playing this game on New Game Plus, I am playing it on Basic Bitch Game Plus, because I have beaten this game 3 fucking times in trying to make this video. Should also mention that there's another way out of the dungeon. It is essentially a personal portal that allows you to teleport between your shop and your position in the dungeon once for a heavy fee. However, it will also completely regen your health, armor, and shields, and give you the ability to not only drop off your loot in your shop, but also restock on your potions. Very balanced. Lastly, there's a deeper story here if you look for it. Before each one of the boss fights, there's going to be a healing pool, and around those pools there's usually a note. After a bit, you begin to unravel and put together the pieces of what the dungeon actually is. And that is something that I will talk about later in the video. However, let's talk about the other half of the game, the Moonlighter. The town of Rhinokia is going to be your hub. As you can choose which dungeon to go in, it gives you the ability to upgrade your stuff, you can fund other shops to give you upgrades, and generally have some downtime. Of these shops that you can buy, you can get the potion maker, the enchanter, the smith, the banker, a furniture maker, and a rival business.
Look like Freddy Krueger face fucking topographical map of Utah.
In reality, you just straight up buy them with your hard-earned money, but this game calls it an investment. And I have yet to see any returns from La Retailar's bitch ass, and you know, it's not my fault his business model is absolutely fucked. I mean, he's selling the same shit that I am for like 4 times the price, and I'm literally like 50 feet away. That's just bad business and a shit investment on my part. But the smith and the potion maker, oh, I know those motherfuckers are making money. We got a town full of adventurers and warriors that I have single-handedly brought back to life, gaining the title of the fucking merchant hero after opening up all the fucking dungeons again, and you fucks don't give me a little bit of fucking return on my investment? Well, it looks like I may have some use for this banker after all. Generally speaking, you're gonna spend most of your time in the Golem dungeon, because after that, the game starts really speeding the fuck up. The game kinda goes like this. You get into the next dungeon for the first time, load up on loot, realize you're underpowered to get past the first floor, and then realize your next upgrade costs $250,000 in gold. Then you start to figure out the new prices for the new loot from the new dungeon, and then realize that a stack of your old loot is worth the same as only one of your new loot. Be absolutely amazed at the amount of money you made, realize that you can only afford maybe 1 or 2 upgrades, and then grind a couple runs for materials. Fully upgrade your gear, fully enchant your gear, bum rush the boss, kill him, repeat until you unlock the 5th dungeon. But let's talk about the shop. The shop, aka the Moonlighter, aka the namesake of the fucking game, is the focal point of all of your progression. It will give you bonuses in the dungeons, increase your cash flow, and allow you to progress. However, it is completely possible to beat this game without a single upgrade, but that would be stupid. So in the shop, you must guess the prices that each customer will pay for each item, and you will know how they feel because they will tell you how they feel with either extremely happy emotes or extremely pissed off emotes. You want to find the Goldilocks zone, or the slightly overpriced zone. This is where you can actually be competitive in selling your items. However, if you oversell an item, not by quantity but by price, the demand goes down. This means absolutely fucking nothing. There's no in-game economy in Moonlighter. At first, I thought there was because they made it very apparent about a demand mechanic, but not a supply mechanic. The prices and patrons also make zero fucking sense. Like, why is there an old farmer trying to buy seeds to raise an eldritch god? Or why the fuck is an onion worth more than a how-to guide for building your own fucking mecha golem? It makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, why does a housewife need to be buying arc welders in fucking bulk? Anyway, find the right prices to sell everything and then sell them in bulk because no one gives a fuck. Grandma will just as happily buy a set of thermodynamic generators as she will a single metal pipe. You'll also be able to take requests after a few upgrades. These are fucking worthless. Do not take these. They are a waste of time, money, and space. If these lazy fuckers want something, they can go get it from the dungeons just like me, or buy it from me like everyone else. I mean, damn, I was like scraping by 2 weeks ago. Now I make 500,000 gold a day, and I make Jeff Bezos look like a fucking bitch. I own this entire town, not to mention I killed all the guardians, and I can kill all of you. Speaking of weapons, the smith. There is a variety of weapons to choose from. There is the sword and shield, the great sword if you don't like movements, the spear if you like to break through everything, a bow if you are a little bitch baby boy and don't like upfront confrontation. And then there is my personal favorite, actual There's also 3 types of armors to pick from and 3 types of slots so you can mix and match. There is no health but quick boy, actually playable, and why the hell am I so goddamn slow and now I'm dead. Then finally there are the pets. Each dungeon has 2 pets. The slimes, however, will grant you the buff of each dungeon. There can also be poison damage, which deals a small amount of damage over time, fire damage, which is a large amount of damage very quickly, and electric, which is a large amount of damage over time. And then there is finally stun, aka return to monkey. Anyway, back to the 5th dungeon. Also, spoilers if you do not want them, but this is a roguelike merchant simulator, so if you don't want to hear about the ending, go to the timestamp. After jumping headfirst into a pit, you meet with a big slug in a mech suit known as Shinji, I mean the interdimensional space pirates. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this whole thing has been interdimensional space pirates. And upon beating the shit out of him and partaking in the interdimensional space fluid Eucharist, you come back and meet the interdimensional police who tell you that you are under arrest, which is usually how it goes after drinking the interdimensional lean. However, it turns out that not only you are under arrest, but the entire planet is under arrest because you have all become accomplices to interdimensional theft. However, he says he's going to let you off easy and tells you that you can no longer use the portals, which means that your entire business will now crumble to the ground as you can no longer stock it with rare loot. On top of that, he also tells you that your world will be joining the ICT, willingly or not. Thus, the true final boss of Moonlighter is every small business owner's nightmare: tariffs, bureaucratic red tape, and globalism. Moonlighter is a good game. There is even a DLC for it that adds a new dungeon and more stuff to craft and a whole lot more gameplay. But I've beaten this game 3 fucking times already and have been trying to make this video for 6 months. Moonlighter is a good game. I'd highly recommend it. 8 out of 10. There's a lot of detail and effort that was put into this game, and from what I did play of the DLC, it truly feels more like a direct sequel that's kind of tacked onto the game, rather than just an add-on. And to top on that, it's not even accessible until you kill the final boss, so you'll know whether or not you're going to want to play it. So good work on that one, boys. But yeah, that's it for the game. It's a good game. Buy it and try it out, and see y'all in the stream, because by the time this comes out, there should be streaming. That's right, I'm live right now. What am I playing? I don't know, because I made this video a week ago, and or at least recorded the audio about a week ago, and I don't know what I'm playing, but I'm live right now. Go.